Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
Associated with the creation
or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked
and sometimes what didn't.
You will also hear very personal experiences
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
and inspire you to do even greater things.
Before we jump into today's conversation, a special thanks to PM Power Consulting for encouraging and supporting this show right from the start. With over 1,000 person years of collective experience, PM Power has helped many organizations, teams, and individuals chart out their own journeys of excellence and make progress. Thank you, PM Power. Now, let's move to today's episode.
In today's conversation with Fred Jordan, CEO of AlpVision, as well as FinalSpark, he's going to cover several topics, starting from why he started the counterfeiting technologies and having a very viable business. And he's also switched towards creating biocomputing as a way to differentiate how we think about neural networks. He actually uses bioneurons instead of our neural networks, and how he's using technology in terms of weightages and everything in the AI world. He's talking about his vision about how these bioneurons are going to create a sustainable future by reducing 1,000,000 times efficiencies by using real neurons instead of digital simulations. I love this conversation in several levels. He talks about his experiences in entrepreneurship, how much trial and error he's done, and also building for the future. Listen on. Hi, Fred. Welcome to Software People Stories.
Hello. Thanks for welcoming me.
So happy to have you. You have a stellar resume, if I can say so. About 10 years in FinalSpark, as well as as a founder and executive member in your firm AlfVision. So without much further ado, how will you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Well, I'm not sure I have a stellar resume. I would love to, and this may come in the future. But I'm just, I would say, a French physicist initially, and I went to Switzerland to do a PhD in signal processing, so really applied mathematics. I founded the first company. This is the nice part of the story, is that indeed this company, AlfVision, is very successful, and I co-own it. And so this is a wonderful story since 25 years. And this led off to the creation of a spin-off called the FinalSpark, which has nothing to do with what AlpVision is doing. AlpVision is specialized in the technologies to detect counterfeit products by image analysis. So you have an app on your smartphone, you take a picture of your preferred shoes, and it tells you if it's original from the brand. Okay, but FinalSpark is about something totally different, and because we loved fundamental research with the co-founder of AlfVision, we decided to launch a parallel venture, which is called FinalSpark.
Excellent. Let me start from the beginning. I know you have done a PhD in applied mathematics, as well as you have a secondary degree in biology. How did you go about your interest? I mean, it's a very different kind of interest that you have.
That's a good question, actually. So the interest I have now in neurobiology is just from a pure engineering standpoint. Okay, as you said, I'm just a physicist, and I know some things in mathematics. That's it. Okay, I had nothing to do initially in neurobiology, really nothing. The only reason I came here is that I realized that if you compare the power consumption of a simulation of a neuron, this is what you have in ChatGPT, by the way, and the power consumption of a real neuron, you have a factor of 1 million in favor of the biological neuron, and 1 million is big.
Wow. And yeah, you stumbled upon this space. How did you go about finding the when you found AlfVision on Counterfeit? How did you decide that this is the place that I want to be in? Because counterfeit products, while today fake news for counterfeit products is a big thing. 25 years back, it may not have been that big, right?
So as everything that happened to me in the past 30 years, I would love to say it's because of my talent. Okay. I would love. Okay. But I think it was about luck. Okay. And sometimes provoking luck. It's like, for instance, to answer to your question, when I did my PhD along with a colleague, we worked in so-called digital watermarking. So digital watermarking is a way to hide invisible information into pictures, videos, and sound in a way that are invisible for human beings, but can be detected with a software application. Okay. And the goal of this is to convey secret information that will resist to scanning, printing, filming, etc., and can be used to trace people who are, for instance, taking video of new movies without the right. They go directly in a movie theater. They film during the first projection the movie, and they give it or they sell it on the internet, for instance. So with this, you can know where the film was broadcasted first, because there is a different code in each movie theater in the world. For instance. And but at this time, 30 years ago, we were able to hide information into videos and pictures, and wanted to make a living out of this. And we believed that the journalist would be interested, because reporters, they take a picture and they want to be the owner of the picture. Okay, so the idea behind this is that they could be able to hide their name into the picture in a way that could not be removed, so they would have a proof that they are the ownership of this picture. And we made a few hundreds of dollars in this market.
Okay.
Which is not so bad. It was the first income that we ever got, but it was not enough to make a living by far. So we tried to apply the same technology, which is basically mathematics, really applied mathematics, nothing incredible. Okay. And we applied it to many things, in particular to the capability of printing small yellow dots on the piece of paper and detect it from a document scan of this piece of paper. And the result was that the same technology could be used to detect the small dots. And so then we were able to hide some information, not on a digital media, but on a physical media. Okay, and since I had a small inkjet HP printer, at home, and this is because we really started in the garage, so we had nothing. Okay, so
Exactly.
I used. So at this point, we were able to have invisible, marking with normal inks. And we tried to find some applications to this. Some people who would be ready to pay for this, because we didn't have any salary, And so we tried many things, but in all directions: the army, the banking documents, identity documents, banknotes. But we tried also brand owners. Okay. And you have a brand, for instance, of cigarettes, okay? And we showed that we could put these small dots on the box of carton and be able to detect them, and they were invisible for the consumer.
Okay.
There was a market.
Oh, wow.
But it was by chance, because all the others were failures. I forgot to mention. Systematic. So out of the 10 products we outcome, 9 were failures. So.
And trust me, being a co-founder myself, the failures teach you very, very valuable lessons, right? In terms of what to not look for, as well as, to some extent, perseverance. And
Yes, yeah, trial and errors is really precious.
so when did you decide to pivot and start with FinalSpark? Why did you decide? I think maybe when is one part of it, but what made you make that shift?
So it's not, it's not the same period of my life. Okay. 25 years ago, it was about making money to make a living. Okay, because nobody wanted to hire me.
I
For
will
some
not
reason.
believe that, Fred. Definitely.
And so this was really the challenge. Okay, so it was about making money,
Correct.
at least to make a living, not making a lot of money, but just to make a living. Okay, and but you, at the end of the day, it was way more successful than expected. And now, if we talk about FinalSpark we founded in 2014, and the difference is that in 2014 the company AlfVision was so successful that it was not only the fact of making money to make a living was way behind us. Okay, um, we were, and we're still making so much money that we didn't care about making more money. So I mean, by itself, it's not a goal. I don't think it's a very good goal in life just to
No,
make
it
more
never
money. It
is.
doesn't make sense.
Agree.
so so we went above our objective, and that was cool. But what we were missing in this process is fundamental research, okay, that we had during our PhD. Never forget that all this story is with Martin Kutter, who is a guy. So we are two co-founder of we are two in the PhD, two co-founder of AlfVision, and two co-founder of FinalSpark. Okay, so two of us were really in this mood of liking fundamental research and missing fundamental research. Okay, so before we were missing money, now we were missing fundamental research. So we said, okay, let's do a spin-off. Okay, since we have the funds, and do something incredible. I believe in life. What is cool is to make only things which are incredible. So that's it, that make you wake up in the morning. You think this is the coolest thing that you can ever do. Okay, and on my view and his view is more like you do something that still makes sense if you look at the Earth from 100 million kilometers away. Okay, and making a new kind of intelligence using well, at the beginning, we wanted to make a revolution in AI. We believed that the way that AI was building was not good. And we wanted to have a totally different approach and pursue paths that other people were not pursuing.
Okay.
This was the goal of FinalSpark.
Okay. So that's why instead of the usual machine learning and the model that you're doing, you're basing it on bio-based neuron. Is that what was the reason you thought the revolution is needed?
No, so you have to see in 2014, okay, LLM were not existing. Well, at least not in the sense of today. Okay, it was more about deep learning and CNN, like convolutional neural networks, and we believe that this was not the right way to go for real AI, general AI. Okay, and there are other models which are more sophisticated that we tried, many ones. There is one I want to mention here is actually artificial neurons, but sometimes the details matter. Okay.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
so, I have to tell you, okay. So if you take ChatGPT, for instance, basically the neuron is very simple. Okay, the neuron is you make the sum of the weighted input, you have a thresholding function, and this is the output. Period. Okay. The most sophisticated way to do this, and one of the pioneers here was actually at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, so where I made my PhD, was to do so-called spiking neurons. So spiking neurons are still stimulations running on a computer, but this time when enough input is coming to these artificial neurons, will have a temporal spike of activity. Okay, and this is actually the way the real neurons are working. The problem of this approach, it is very complicated because you have the temporal dimension to take into account, which you don't when you do ChatGPT. You never take temporal. Any modern AI is not taking temporality into consideration here. And because of this, our simulations were taking kilowatts of power for a few hundreds of simulated neurons. Okay, so we were very proud.
Yeah.
Of our neurons because they were way more realistic, our simulations, but it was not. It was just impossible to scale this to the size of a human brain.
Oh, wow. That's a very, very different way in which to think about it, right? Are you thinking that this is the next step towards artificial general intelligence, or that we are still further away?
Yeah, well, this is what we were believing at this time, okay, that we had to go with spiking neurons. But when we realized that we were consuming kilowatts for a few hundreds of neurons, we also realized that it was totally impossible to talk about general artificial intelligence because we would need billions of neurons normally, okay, and billions of neurons, that means a small nuclear plant just to run our simulation. So to come back to your initial question, the reason I went to neurobiology is only this: pure performance. Because when I realized that if I take a real neuron, I'm not going to consume kilowatts. I'm going to consume microwatts. Or milliwatts, So, and this was the best engineering solution to move forward. And possibly to move in a general AI was a bit of cheating. Actually, say, okay, let's use the real neurons and connect them our way to create a sort of synthetic biological neural networks.
Synthetic biological neural networks. Okay. I know I can understand neural networks, I can understand synthetic, but how is that neural network actually going to work in reality? Have we got some early deployments of
it's now implemented to some extent. Okay. So if you connect to finalspark.com, okay, you will see those spikes in real time, live, directly from Switzerland. Okay. So in order to do this, we had to learn about neurobiology and biology, okay, because we knew nothing. Okay. So how do you do cell culture? How do you use stem cells? How do you differentiate them? How do you create brain organoids? And we create our own cell culture lab. We bought all the equipment and we take some courses, and it's okay now. We can do millions and millions of human neurons. We connect them in small nervous tissue, the small ball of 500 microns of diameter. We put them on electrodes because we also learn how to create electrodes and things like this. We have a microfluidic system in order to feed them 24/7. So because we also designed this, and all that is working, and we can now read in real time those famous spike. Okay, and we can send them also some stimulation, and they answer to us sometimes when they want.
Wow, that's fantastic. So I know a lot of universities are using FinalSpark's test bed, if I can use the term. What is, in your view, the next step from here? How do you think the progress is going to happen? Because I know for a fact that the amount of power consumption by today, how much we are using ChatGPT or any of the frontier models is much lower. But as the usage going to increase, the power consumption is going to exponentially increase. So how is FinalSpark going to kind of scale its model? I'm very curious because I am from sustainable, and I don't want to, destroy forests as much as any other person.
So I can answer to this very precisely, okay, on what we want to achieve, okay. I'm going to be less precise on how to achieve it, okay, but but the vision is, well, you talk about consumption, power consumption, okay. Most of it is related to servers, okay, because this is cloud computing, okay. When you do AI, most of the time now you go on the cloud. ChatGPT is on the cloud; it's not running on your PC. Okay? So that means that you need to have efficient servers. Okay, the power consumption is on these servers. Okay, I told you before, you have to consider 1 million times more efficient biological neurons than artificial neurons. Okay, now there are also some drawbacks of artificial biological neurons. So all in all, factoring all the drawbacks of the biological neurons, I would say that we can still have 100 to 1,000 more energy efficient biological server. So let me replace this server you are using for ChatGPT with a biological server that is consuming 100 times less. And you're done.
Makes sense. Actually, in fact, even if the frontier models are not using it, the models which are applying could be small language models or models which are actually taking some of it, some of the customizations that are happening, could use these servers, which are more biologically consumption-less. Consumption is lower, right? But do you think the world is ready? I know we are speaking about it as we speak. AI continues to keep changing every other month. So do you think how part of it have you thought of in terms of where next is FinalSpark going to go?
Well, so we want to build this server. Okay. So this nervous tissue is not going to be 500 micrometer. It's going to be 10 centimeters by 100 meters to 100 meter. Okay. It's going to be in a full-size factory that will serve millions of people. Okay. So this is the vision. So, so there are a number of engineering problems to do this. Okay, it's a bit like when Elon Musk just said that he wants to have the rocket landing. Okay, what I'm saying here has never been done before. I think it's never been thought before. So we have a number of challenges, and one of the most basic challenge, and we are not the only one of this, is how to connect your neurons to do something useful. It has to be very clear for any people listening here that when you have artificial neurons, okay, AI, the learning is done by setting the right connections between the neurons, called weights.
Correct.
Okay. And we need to do the same thing in biology. And this is learning. This is also how you as a human being learn, actually. This is what we have to reproduce. We have to reproduce in vitro the learning process. This has been done on artificial neural networks about 30 years ago. The fundamentals have been done, and this is why we have AI today. This remains to be done for biological networks. Once we do this, we can do this server I was talking about.
Cool. Unless the fundamental research is being done today, you're saying that the next couple of decades, when there's a scaling of AI is going to happen, we'll not be able to, reap the benefit of either power consumption or scaling of the neurons itself, right?
We are going to have a problem, as you mentioned, about the growth of usage. That's for sure. That's just mathematics. Okay. So I'm just thinking in advance. But our objective is to have this operational in about 12 years.
Okay. So let me ask some questions on more from a business side of things for FinalSpark. I know your AlfVision company is running. You're continuing to be a CEO there as well as here. How do you balance your time? Any learnings from there? Any new graduate today wants to be a CEO, wants to really be in the helm of multiple firms. right? So I want any practical advice that you would like to give.
So yes, you're right. That's a funny situation actually. To be in charge of two companies. So first thing is that I'm not alone because there is Martin Kutter, so we are both here. Okay, and this is important thing. And you actually ask two different questions. First, how to become a CEO, and then how to become a CEO of many companies. Okay, and but I would say, I mean, become thinking about CEO. Okay, let's say about just becoming an entrepreneur that makes a business that he likes and he can make a living out of it. Okay, I mean, this is the first ambition. Okay, particularly to focus on making money out of what you love to do. And this is maybe what you are currently doing, actually, yourself. So this is, I would say, this is the level one. Just recognize what is interesting for you. CEO is just about the growth of company. Is that at some point you may need to hire more people, and then once you have proven, when you have done the product, found the customer, making money, you've gone the whole story. Okay, it's just about replicating. Okay, and replicating is needs to master other kind of competence, because at this point you think you know everything. Okay, because you're making money with your own thing, but that's not true because you've not proven the scalability. And the scalability requires, for instance, the capability to hire and manage people, which have nothing to do, absolutely nothing, with the previous qualities required. So, and in a nutshell, at the end of the day, the problem of an entrepreneur, and this is why entrepreneur is very, very small fraction of the population, is that you need to be not bad at many things. Okay, because everything is holistic. You cannot say, I don't care about finance. It's not interesting. You don't care, but then you are going to be bankrupt. Okay, I don't care about people. I don't care about managing people. Then your company, you will have a turnover like hell, I don't care about technical things. I don't care. Okay, if you have a technical company, you have your things to work. I don't care about marketing. If you don't marketing, people won't come, etc., etc. So everything is important. I don't care about contract. You will pay it for. And I tell you, and there was things like, I don't care about exchange rates.
Okay. Exchange rates. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you would say, come on, Fred, exchange rate. Yeah, okay. You don't care about it. Yeah, okay. It cost me millions. Okay, not caring about exchange rate. Okay, so now I do care about exchange rate also. Okay, so, so if you talk about SEO, it's more about enlarging all your capabilities to all the things you need to care about. Now, if you talk about multi-companies, that's something else. First, I want to mention that FinalSpark is not making money. Okay, so it's very easy to create companies who are losing money. Okay, so I have no merit at this point. Okay, only I've created one company, co-created one company that makes money, and the second one loses money. So it's very easy. I can create 10 other companies who are losing money. Very easy if you have money. Okay, so the proof will be made if I make money with the second one. So at this point, I've not proven anything.
It's a very, very, very cool way to think about it in terms of you have to find a passion, because that's when you end up working relentlessly in spite of failures, right? I think that I think in your early said you mentioned about failure, and see, I know it may everybody and listening to you may say that you're pretty cool about it, about getting failures, but for someone to continue to keep trying different things, I think that's very cool. And ensuring that you are there's a term jack of all trades, but you're not a jack of all trades, you're actually expert of all trades and only a few trades, right?
Yes. Yeah, in my case, when we founded AlfVision, it was really about programming. I loved programming in C++. Okay, that was my thing. Okay, so programming anything, I was already happy. Okay, and this plus mathematics. I loved also mathematics. Okay, these are the two things I would do for free. Actually, I was doing it actually as a hobby anyway. Okay, so as you said, if it's a passion, you are never really working. Okay, and that's the thing. The past 25 years, I'm not really working. I'm just going to work to do what I like to do anyway. So.
Sorry, I was on mute. That is very, very cool, Fred. I think if you have a passion, and I am from India, I personally feel a lot of us don't spend enough time in fundamental research. We are sort of continuing to stay in the wheel of how do I make more money and more money, rather than saying, what do you do with that? What next? I think I'm very inspired by just the fact that you've taken the next step in terms of expanding your horizons in AI. And I hope FinalSpark actually is extremely successful beyond your imagination in the next decade. So I want to go back to your question, or what you mentioned about C++ programming. Do you get time at all now to do any of the programming or even software development, anything now? Or you are further away?
No, I do it. So I did some, a few weeks ago, I did some small software for AlfVision to test a new idea that I had. So I programmed this. It was not very sophisticated, but I loved it. I made a more sophisticated one 1 year ago, 1 year and a half ago, that led to patents actually, and which is now deployed in China, the technology itself.
Oh.
So yeah, so I'm still doing some programming here in C++. Okay, now and in C# also. Now this is for AlfVision. For FinalSpark, I have a problem, because the new language now is not C#, not C++, it's Python.
Python.
And Python is not enough. You need to know also PyTorch and NumPy. And I'm not good at all of them. Okay, I'm very bad. Okay, and I mean, I don't say. I mean, I see brackets with commas lost everywhere. What is? I'm just lost. But I learned something the past 2 weeks. Is that I don't need to learn Python because ChatGPT knows it very well. And I made some experiments on autoencoders, for instance. I wanted to make some experiments with autoencoders. And convolutional encoders, variational autoencoders, things like this, okay? And I started, write this software, Python, and I want this number of inputs, latent space of this dimensionality, and things like this. And it wants this, and I executed this in a notebook, and it worked actually. And so I started to make some research, like I had an assistant, and I realized that instead of spending 90% of my time coding, I was spending 90% of my time thinking, thinking about the concept. What is the mathematics behind? Okay, so what I was very proud of so far, and I liked it very much, programming, was not the thing that is actually the most important at the end of the day. And luckily, I'm also interested by mathematics. So it's okay that I give up with programming on Python because I'm very happy to be in mathematics and really work on the concepts. And I realized that the past 15 days have been way more productive for FinalSpark, thanks to the way I interact with the different versions of ChatGPT.
Very cool. In fact, when I go and speak with middle managers, as part of leadership training and everything, this is exactly what I say. I tell, if you're not developing code, it's okay. You don't have to develop code now, but as long as you know how to validate. If the code is being developed by a Copilot or any of the ChatGPT world, at least we should keep the domain, because it could be mathematics, it could be engineering, it could be pure mechanics. To know, you need to know what is the outcome that it is producing. Yes. I mean, that is your superpower. If you don't know what you're expecting. I mean, you can ask it to create unit test cases, integration test cases, but what should be tested has to come from us. Otherwise, we
Yeah,
are quickly going to
yeah.
become zombies.
No, but you're very right. And by the words you're using, I guess you are also in software.
Yes, I am. I started with C++ as well, and C++ and Fortran development, and then went
Yeah.
to Java development, and now I do write Python code though. So
You made the move. So
yeah.
congratulations. So sometimes now I put also my hand a little bit just to modify small modifications that ChatGPT, for instance, just changing one or two numbers, it would rewrite 200 lines of code. I mean, uh,
Oh,
it's faster sometimes that I just type in what I want to change. Okay, but you're right, and about you have to know what you expect. You have also to ask you the right question. You have to be critic without regarding the result. But all of this, I was doing it before since many years with colleagues, with employees.
correct.
Okay, it's not different. It's just an artificial assistant, and because it's for FinalSpark, we have an intern. We always have one intern at FinalSpark, right? And I realized that I interact a lot with her. She's way better than me in programming Python and PyTorch. Yeah? Okay, wonderful. But um, I, I'm still very much useful because I know what what should be tested, what could be wrong, what could seem like working but it's not working, what could seems like useful but it's perfectly useless, and things like this. And so that's another way. So now I'm trying more to produce my own Python code and see the results and discuss with the colleague or with the intern, see the what she gets, and so I try to put this assistant into the team.
That's wonderful, Fred. In fact, that's really the where the world is also moving towards in terms of saying, uh, I mean, I recently read a book called Co-Intelligence. What it talks about is just this saying, can you treat AI as your, co-conspirator, as well as your constantly somebody who's being with you. I think rather than just giving them commands is also helping them learn. I think that's going to be the new world in my view. So the next question I wanted to ask you is, if you have a time turner, I mean the clock time turner, the Harry Potter time turner, and you imagine yourself 10 years from now, what do you think will be present as far as AI and application of AI is concerned? What kind of changes do you think we will?
I think we are going to see the rise of biological intelligence. Okay, and there was a blog written about this. You know, I love reading all these blogs about our company, FinalSpark. Okay, because since we became viral every year, every night, there is somebody doing a blog or a video about FinalSpark. So it's funny. And he was talking about the rise of biological intelligence. And I think we are going to see this kind of new way of computing, which is going to become normal. Today, it's pure science fiction. Okay. But it's going to be the norm. Like in the 50s, like people were starting to do digital computers with transistors. Um, Before it was only analog computers, but still solving a differential equation. So the norm will be it will be standard. I don't know if it will be a coprocessor or it will be a standalone processor, but it's going to be somehow, I think, like the LED light compared to the bulb light. Okay. 10 years ago, people were saying, we have an energy problem because of the lighting. Okay. LED came, problem solved.
Okay. Yeah. True.
So this is for the lighting part, okay? Because the energy efficiency of this system is so high that emitting photons is not an issue anymore, okay? If you want, okay? And so I think it's going to be the same thing for AI. Today it seems like, well, it's consuming way more or way too much, but maybe in 10 years it will be like LED. It's an appliance, no problem. It's a commodity, okay? It doesn't consume anything, okay? It doesn't matter. In the more long term, I have a vision which is even more futuristic. So it's not about science now. I'm talking about I love science fiction, okay? And
who doesn't?
Today, I don't know. If you look around you in the room you're sitting right now, okay,
Yeah.
you will see two kind of things: living things, I would say, not living things. Okay. In the not living things, most of them are artificial things. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have things like this. Okay. You may have flowers or things which are living, but other things are not living. When we do objects as human beings, okay, we create artificial objects. Okay. I'm thinking about a future where we will have hybrid objects. Okay, half living, half artificial. And this will kind of blur the lines between what is artificial and what is a biological, natural. Let me give you an example. Pure science fiction, okay? I have no project in these directions whatsoever, okay? Imagine that you have a glass, okay? A glass is typically an artificial object. Okay? It's totally inert, it's not living at all, okay? But imagine that you had a glass that would had some nervous tissue, which is able to analyze your breath, okay, and synthesize and release directly some molecules in the water that you pour in order that it's good for you.
Okay.
Then you are creating a bidirectional interaction between your object and you. It's like you have a cat, for instance. Okay, you have this kind of feedback loop interaction. Correct. And you could have object this way. And this might be a future also.
Very cool. In fact, when we are talking about biology, I have a notebook on my desk. I keep writing notes, obviously, in during podcasts and everything, right? So I was thinking how cool it'll be based on how I write normally and how I'm writing sometime when I'm stressed or I'm not my mental health is not a problem, or it could be different things. We are right now thinking of only digitally transferring data, but it could also go more based on how we interact with different objects. It could be bio indicators, it could be mental indicators, it could be a lot of other indicators it could give. And that would be very cool. And one of my dreams, honestly, Fred, is ability to read somebody else's mind. That way, often the ability to have, wavelength match. Wavelength match we keep talking about. Ability to say, hey, are we in sync? In terms of, let's say, I am explaining something and Fred is not able to get it. So how do I know to explain in a way that Fred can understand? Not in a way that, I can read Fred's thinking process, but I can modulate how to do it. I think that would be very cool, how we all communicate. And we just averted a war in India. So I feel some of these war situations could sort of go away in the world. I think that if 10 years down the line, if that could happen, and using AI would be my dream as well.
I don't know. It's a possible future. I don't know.
That's true. So yeah, the last question, Fred. Any advice that you would give for professionals who are in the middle management or just joining, based on your experience? Any stories? Any I have a piece of advice that you would give?
I think it's important to know who you are. About middle manager, you will realize that most of them are not coding anymore. And I've seen this several times. CEO of big companies, way bigger than me, that are still coding, where all the middle managers are not coding anymore. So
True.
interesting thing. Just to okay. So you have to know who you are, okay? And first, I don't know. Maybe it's different in India, okay? But here in Europe, you will say one people out of 1,000 entrepreneurs are made for this, okay? So I think it's important to recognize if this is what you really want to be. If you ask the question, that's not a good sign. And I think energy is one fundamental. This is the only thing that you need to have as an entrepreneur that is required is energy. Okay. This, the rest you can, you need it also, but you can acquire it. But energy is mandatory. Okay. You cannot avoid this. I think there are a thing which is sometimes a bit overlooked because I said about being driven by passion. But also, if you want to have a successful business, I said everything is important, okay? But finance is particularly important in the sense that you should make profit.
Always. True.
That sounds obvious, but I want to. And sometimes when you are in what you are doing, okay, particularly if you're passionate about what you are doing, it may not be that sound that important, but it is. Because if you want to keep on doing your thing, you have to care about this thing. Okay, profitability. And in everything we've done from the beginning, it's always look at this. And you make profit when you create high value and you don't invest too much time into it. Okay. In our case, we have patent licenses. We invent technologies and we sell royalties. Okay. So that's a wonderful business case because I invoice $100,000 or $1 million, and basically I have almost nothing to do. So close to very high margin. Okay. This is high value. This may not be the only model. Okay. You don't need to have a very high value model, but you need to make sure it's still profitable. Okay. So passion and profitability, which seems to be very, very far away. And often you find people who are very good at computation are counting money, but have no passion at all. Okay. And you find people exactly the opposite. Okay. So if you are only half of the people, which you may be, and you still want to be entrepreneur, no problem. You have a solution. You find the other half. That's going to be a human being. Okay. I tell you. And then you've done it. Okay. So that's my best trick.
Oh, wow. That's a very cool way to put it, Fred, because you have passion, you have profitability. Even if you're not in the same person, find that co-founder or a co-CEO to make that happen. Because if you don't, one without the other will not keep the engine running for long or energy running for long, as you said.
Yes. And that leads to frustration. Okay, you have. I think people have to realize that life is very long, actually. Okay, and when I meet people at 50 years old and they say, "Well, they were passionate by this, but people were not interested, and they are so deceptive. They are, it's not cool at all." And I meet much more people at 50 years old, which are not happy about their life because they failed in their dreams. So you have to take very seriously your dreams into consideration, because if you don't work for your dreams, you work for the dreams of someone else.
Very true. So true. Thank you so much, Fred. Any last words that you want to share? Otherwise, I think it's been an awesome conversation, and I found it so many valuable nuggets from this conversation, and I hope our listeners found it too. All the best for FinalSpark, and I hope we are going to be in touch as you go to the next steps.
Yes, I'm happy to see what's next also. So Now it's about learning to raise a lot of money. This is my next objective. Okay, put $50 million into FinalSpark from investor funds or something. This is what I'm into. This is the new thing I have to learn.
Wish you all the very best. I'm sure you're going to be able to race with your charisma as well as with your vision.
Thank you very much. It was a nice pleasure to discuss with you today.
Thank you so much, Fred. Bye-bye. Have a good one.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.